This Massena political meeting is brought to you by An Italian Affair, located at 339 East Orvis Street in Massena. Call 315-764-9829 for takeout orders, or visit their website at ItalianAffair.com. Pizza and pasta at its finest.
Call this meeting to order, and if you could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming.
I turned it on
It's
already.
already on. I hope you didn't,
Just so you didn't.
Thank you.
I hope you didn't say anything in the last 5 minutes. So as per our usual custom, we open the meeting to a public comment period for 15 minutes. If anybody has anything that they would like to share with the board, I encourage you to do that now. Just you could stand and state your name and let us know what's on your mind.
Well, my name is Will Gray. No relation. You might have heard of the meeting in Canton, the county meeting last month. I was a speaker at that. And when I look here and see, must be agenda items only. I'm going to give you a short version if you don't mind.
Well, that's for closing comments. Oh, agenda. No, go ahead.
You don't want the long version because we.
No, I don't want the long one.
Okay. I've got something I took out of the paper that come out of Albany. The Governor Andrew Cuomo is proposing 6 gun control bills in his budget, and more than 24 more are active in the legislature. Forgot. Felix Ortiz, an assemblyman from Brooklyn. We should not deny our communities and our state this opportunity that has been granted to us, controlling both houses and the governor's office, to pass tougher measures of gun control in this session. He has also sponsored quite a few gun control measures that covers the whole state, not just New York City. I would say this can be one of the biggest years when you go back and look in history. New York State will finally be able to move forward and have real gun control reforms in place. I think we can kind of agree they got gun control reforms in place. They don't need more. As we follow this type of reasoning, let's not forget that the so-called green light law gave sanctuary to illegals and then gave them the right to a driver's license. But ICE is not allowed to the base of information. So isn't there at least 2 areas where New York State is ignoring federal law and federal standards? The budget process, isn't that supposed to be about money? Cash in, cash out. My wife and I have a budget, and I'm sure you all have budgets, to pay our bills. But New York uses it to pass bills and create laws because the budget must pass. So why not just tack a bill on there and create a new law in the dark of night? Remember the SAFE Act? I sure do. I remember it. The people have no say about anything that controls us, our children, or our lives. Shouldn't we have more of a say? Shouldn't more of these things go to the people to vote? But they want to say it's for our own good. Then they want to cram criminal justice reform down our throats. I'm pretty sure we know how that's been working out. We already have thousands of no-shows after posting bail. Now we release without bail. Thanks a lot, New York State. I'm sure you know that Albany has its share of lobbyists, just like Washington does. a little something off the top to help a company or pass a midnight state standard to purchase a product or service pushed by that lobbyist. And through all of this, we have an assemblyman from New York, the governor and his staff trying to make it harder and harder on law-abiding people of this state and placing costs on us that have a hard time creating it, putting up with those costs. They're creating more loopholes for people to jump through, all the while passing laws attached to the budgets underneath that we have no say about, and all of a sudden, there it is. Releasing without bail, cavorting with lobbyists, and giving illegals a soft home. Isn't it about time we have our own sanctuary and are heard by our elected officials who speak out on our behalf? We know we're never going to get a sanctuary county up here. You can't have one in New York State, and that's not actually what I want to say. But I think more of our elected officials should speak out and be heard against what Cuomo is doing with all these gun laws. I don't consider myself a gun nut. I don't have walls full of guns. I got a shotgun, a rifle, and a four-wheel drive. Country boy can survive. Sorry. I got some hunting equipment, and that's pretty much all I have. But even after the SAFE Act, you can't have one of those nasty-looking guns with the pistol grip on it, because how evil they are. It shoots the same ammunition that this one over here does. 223. The state is, we have, this is the most beautiful county in the state. I come out of Buffalo 33 years ago. And after being here for 33 years, I've fallen in love with this county. I love the people of this county. This is a great place to live. Yet we're getting jammed by New York City, let's call them politicians. I have other words going in my mind. We don't need that up here. Maybe if our elected officials would speak out as a group, as a whole, and let their words be heard against these things, it would help us. Because we need help. We need help against New York City. Ma'am, gentlemen, I appreciate you listening to me. I just got one thing I'd like to leave you. I printed these out, and I know the wording isn't great, the wording isn't perfect, but I'd like maybe for towns and villages to send something of that nature to the county and to the state and let them know how we feel up here. This is a rural community, the biggest county with the smallest percentage of people. There's a phrase for it, and I'm sure you understand what I mean.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you for listening.
Anybody else? All right. For our first item on the agenda, we have a presentation from Massena Library, Joseph Savoca and Patty Ryan. Thank you for coming.
The microphone is not working. There's not a big crowd. I don't think I even need to lean on this, but if I do, I will. I thought we'd have a huge crowd of library supporters, but anyway. Good evening to all. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Patty Ryan. Next to me, Joseph Savoca. We serve on the Massena Public Library Board of Trustees, as do Jack Bain, Linda McDonald, who is here in the front, and Gina Matthews. Elaine Dunn is our library director. At this time, she's on scholarship attending the Public Library Association's annual meeting. So here we are. I think it wise to begin with gratitude to our forebears who had the foresight to establish a library in Massena, to citizens who gifted land on which the library is built, and to the family of Henry Warren, who gifted such a beautiful library building to our community. As members of the board, we are entrusted with helping the library director accomplish the mission of the library, which you see stated here. To accomplish this mission more effectively and far into the future, we are pursuing status as a school district library. I want to let you know that while we welcome questions, we do ask that you hold them to the end of the presentation. We explain this process to you now so that you understand how this move, this change of status, will benefit the library, which itself benefits so many people in our whole school district area. And secondly, so that you can be an informed voter when the proposition is placed for a vote in June. The library is more than just books, as wonderful as books are. I point out public computers for patrons who do not own a computer, free Wi-Fi for patrons who may own a computer but do not have internet, and services of a notary, access to Ancestry.com, and on and on. That handout is available for you to hold in your own hand. Moving on to programs that are available at the library. Story time for preschoolers. The Story Walk program with the Nicandry Nature Center. You can see the kids doing things. They're responding to the stories that are posted in various spots along their walk. Chair yoga, weight training for seniors and retired community members. Concerts and movies. To the left, that's the audience is pictured for the center program, which is features Don Woodcock and Gretchen Kohler. And we had this fiddling program all the way down to, I think it was an 8-year-old child who spoke and fiddled, and a lot of stage presence. To the right, Dr. Lionel Wood from Crane. He presented a program on the Civil War area, including music of that time. Next, we have a library, author visits to the library. This is Ellen Marie Wiseman. She shared how she chooses her themes and the whole process of publication. That was kind of interesting. I won't be doing that anytime soon. On the right, Dr. Galen Welsh from SUNY Potsdam, and she did a presentation about women's suffrage, pretty timely, since we celebrate 100 years of that this year. Moving on, from history to the Lego Club. Special events, programs for children and youth. There's an exhibition space for the arts in the library's main reading room. Here we see Eileen Boots presenting an award from the Massena Artists Association. The sewing lab, which is downstairs at the library. So we've had some quilting and projects going on. Elaine had written a grant, and we have sewing machines that are available for patrons with a minimum amount of training and safety procedures first. On we go. Oh, more of the sewing, and you can see there's some younger kids that came in for a project too. That was fun. And off to the right, basket making with Anne French from Brazier. The library's partnered with the Celine Philibert Cultural Center and Museum on a number of occasions. Here we see Camilla Amorati from the Tawny Center sharing information about the instruments of the North Country exhibit. And to the right, she's giving a demo with the North Country fiddler Vince Boyer. That was at the museum. We've had shared events with the museum. Let me see, there was Remington, the baskets of the area, and there was, the exhibits about the Racket River dams. Moving on. Here's the year in review. Of course, I'm not going to say all of those numbers, and this is available as a handout. We've had 86,231 visits to the library in this past year. 9,639 registered patrons. And the rest you can look at yourself. The summer reading program last year was very successful. 385 participants and 2,861 event attendance. And moving along, here I want to restate my opening remarks concerning the duties of library trustees. We are entrusted with achieving the library's mission, not merely for it to function and survive, but we'd like to see the library thrive. We are required to exercise diligence, and ensure that the library's resources are directed to the fulfillment of that mission. Presently, the Massena Public Library is chartered as a municipal library, and it is primarily funded by the town of Massena taxpayers. The Board of Trustees are appointed by the Town Council. Our budget for this year is $683,750. The Town of Massena's contribution is $607, roughly. Appropriated from our fund balance, $30,000. You can see library charges, grants, and donations. The Town of Louisville gives the library a funding of $9,000 as a result of a referendum passed by the Louisville residents. And we rent the classroom in the library for $4,800 a year to BOCES Readiness to Work program, which is a plus for area youth who wouldn't be able to get the canteen for those classes otherwise. Next, we see results of successful grant writing. Elaine has done a great job in this area. In the dates indicate when the project was completed. So in 2019, the memorial garden, the new sign, the new walkway and railings in the front, exterior doors, an outside reading area, an interior wall with its own entrance into the children's area was completed. In 2018, the Business Resource Center, where the Memory Center is located, and photo collections can be digitized, as well as some movie formats, right? Children's STEM resources and updated furnishings for the teen area. In 2017, the screening room, which is housed in the Warren Room, we can show movies, can be used for presentations. The Needlecraft Lab, I talked a little about that already, and technology equipment, including a scanner, a laminator, and a printer. An energy efficiency upgrade to the controls for the HVAC system was done in 2016. Where we stand Due to the tax cap, due to rising costs, due to various unexpected expenses and needs that the town really has to address, library funding has been stagnant for the last 10 years. The graph represents the town tax dollars used toward the support of the library since 2011. Budget reductions have impacted personnel, which in turn affects the hours that the library can be open. Resources have been reduced, spending for resources have been reduced over the last 12 years. Technology and building updates have been totally dependent on successful grant writing. So together with the stagnant funding and budget cuts, our ability to operate the library is damaged. We're no longer able to do more with less. We've exhausted our fund balance to offset operating expenses. As a board, we've looked at financial difficulties and we see that the school district library status would alleviate financial stress. Not my stress, but the financial stress. To change status from a municipal public library to a school district public library means that funding would be drawn from the same area which defines the Massena Central School District. New York State has created this type of library because it considers libraries and schools as educational institutions with similar purposes. Therefore, the school district library service area would include parts of Norfolk, parts of Brazier, parts of Louisville, just like the school district does. The same exact geographic area. A school district library is established by a vote of the school district residents. And library trustees would be directly elected by school district residents. As a school district public library is funded by the taxpayers of the Central School District area by a library tax. That word we don't like, however. The taxpayers' budget amount will appear as a separate line item on each resident's tax school bill. It should be noted that the library's only connection to the actual school district is that they are both subject to state education department laws and both serve the same geographical area. If we achieve school district library status, the Massena Central School will collect the taxes, hold them separately, and disperse them to the library. The school district library would be independent of the Massena Central School District and of the town of Massena and would be governed by its board. As always, the library will maintain a good relationship with both, and as we already do, we will continue to collaborate on various projects and programs for members of our entire service area. The library is will be asking the school district voters to establish a library district with initial funding of $695,283 of community-based funding. Any future funding increase must be approved by another public ballot. That means the funding would stay at the initial level. If there was going to be any kind of an increase, it would have to go to public ballot again. This funding would put the library on solid, predictable, and stable financial footing which will result in more manageable long-range planning. Okay. This is a breakdown of the percentages within our school district. The majority of assessment lies within the town of Massena, as you can see, at 70%. 22% is in Louisville, about 5.5% in Norfolk, and a little over 2% in Brazier. And is there anything more to say on that one? So this is how the tax rates will look with Massena funding the library. With Massena, the town tax funding the library, with it not funding the library, and the savings that would ensue. So for a home that was assessed at $50,000, I won't read them all, okay? The town tax with the library comes in at about $241, without the library at $179, with the savings of $62. If your home is assessed at $100,000, the town tax, including the library, is $482. The town tax without the library, $358, with a savings of $124. I'm going to skip down to $200,000. The town tax with the library is $964. Without the library, $716, with a savings of $249. Now here's a slide on district funding of the school tax. So I'm going to just, well, you can see them all. The numbers vary because of the different equalization rates. Is that right? Very good. I'm learning some number business. A Massena home assessed at $50,000 would have a library tax of $44 for the year, which still reflects a savings of $18 because going subtracting from it does. And a $100,000 home, the library tax would be $88 for the year, with a savings of about $36.
And just to be clear, this is numbers for the library district tax alone. The previous slide is for comparing the town tax as it is now to what it would be if the town removes funding for the library from future tax bills. So the savings for residents within the town of Massena would be the difference between the numbers that you saw on the previous slide and this current slide.
So next we move on to the steps that we would need to go through to become a school district library. The library board will petition the school district to put the library proposition on the ballot. That'll happen in March. The residents will vote in June. The town council would vote to dissolve the library after the vote, if it passes. The library board would dissolve the current municipal library after that election as well. The new library, which would be the school district library, which is the same building and the same assets, applies for a new charter within 30 days after the election. And the Board of Regents approves the charter usually within 3 months after that application. Good enough? The library board, at that point, registers the library. The trustees take their oath at the beginning and begin governing the new library. after the charter approval, and that is projected to be in the late fall. The library board transfers, the school district collects the taxes, and turns them over to the school district library, and the library board transfers and disposes the assets from the old municipal library to the new school district library, which is the same building. If the school district library is not approved, without stable funding, the long-range planning is very difficult. It will necessitate further staff reductions and therefore a reduction in hours of operation, increased charges for various services offered at the library.
And some people wonder, what does that mean if the vote isn't approved to create a school district public library? The library remains, it's just the structure and the relationship with the town of Massena remains the same, and is dependent on year to year what the funding that the town council approves within their budget for the library.
If the school district is approved, if the district library is approved, the library has more assurance of stable and predictable operating funds and will continue varied educational, informational, recreation opportunities for all ages. And things will stay at the current level of operation, staffing, and fees will stay the same as they are at this point. The vote to create a school district library will be in June. Oh, very good, June 16th, 12 to 8 p.m. And that will be at the library. There are requirements for voting in a school district vote. They're different than voting in a national election, so you don't have to be registered with the County Board of Elections. You do need to be a citizen. You do need to have a residency of 30 days and be 18 years old. Absentee ballots are available at the Massena Central School, and voting will take place, as I said, at the library itself on June 16th.
So the eligibility requirements to vote in the process are the same as the school district runs their own elections.
So, for information, please feel free to call Elaine over at the library. And, oh, I see, Joseph is there, and I am as well. So if you have questions and we can answer them, we will. And if we can't, we'll find out the answer. So we're here to inform the voters, but we're also here to ask the town council for a vote of support for the creation of a school district public library, and to pledge to remove library funding amounts from future tax levies if the school district library is created. Okay, so our very last is the Massena Public Library Board of Trustees. Thanks you for your very kind attention this evening on a snowy night, and for your ongoing patronage. Using the library supports the library, and we encourage it.
Good job, Patty.
Yeah, thank you. So now
I'm
we will
sure-
entertain questions.
Yes. Well, before we get to the questions, I just want to say that you asked about, or were hoping for, a large group of library supporters, but I think you can rest assured that the people here at this table have supported the library since they've been in office, and we would continue to do so. We've supported it since 1934, when, and Al, were you around then? But I would ask that we consider a resolution next month in support of this, this vote to allow the library to become a public school library. And also, as far as the funding, the library has its own L district or L fund that we've used to fund the library. It's in our budget, it's in our annual budget, has been. And if when the library does become a school district library, that would be removed. And the taxpayers of the town of Massena would see a savings in their tax bill, which would be less than what the school district library tax would be for them. So we can put that in the resolution as well for next month.
I want to thank you for all the data, because it's important you do a presentation to provide that much data. It's very helpful. I do have a couple of questions. Mr. Nicola and I are both on the audit committee, which means that each month we sit down and co-sign all the bills going through. And so the last 2 months that I've been on here, it's been 30 to 40 bills for the library. So do you have a plan as to who the trustees or who will take care of those bills when you move on? I'm just wondering.
At the present time, we do have someone on staff, Alicia, who does all the billing preparation for sending it over to the town hall. And I think she will take those duties over with the guidance of John Garcelle and Company, accountants in Potsdam who work with the Potsdam Library, which is a school district library.
So they'll provide guidance, will they also charge a fee to you?
Oh, yes, they'll provide guidance, they'll charge a fee, and they will offer oversight pretty constantly.
All the bills will still have to be approved by the library board of trustees, same as they are now.
And as far as the trustees, will there be an opportunity for trustees from all those geographic areas to become members of your board?
Anybody can be, right?
As long, the requirement's the same as voting. If you're a resident of the Massena Central School District, you can run for a position of the trustee.
So after, okay, so let's say it goes to the school board in March, and they approve going to have the vote. So at that point, you'll be putting out information for people who want to apply to be voted for?
The process, again, is similar to people running for the school board. They would have to submit a petition with the required number of signatures to the school district clerk in order to be put on the ballot to run for library district trustee.
If this passes, obviously, each of the communities, each of the 4 communities is going to have representation on that new board.
There's no
I
requirement.
don't see that not happening.
No guarantee.
No, I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with the individual towns. It's everybody's the same within the school district, same as with the school district itself, the library district would be the same. It's not broken up by election districts, that there has to be representation from a certain area. But it's open to anybody within the school district to run for library trustee.
Petition to run.
Yeah, if you present your petition, you can be put on the ballot to be voted on.
And how many trustees will there continue to be then, Joe?
There's going to be 7 trustees,
7.
or positions for 7 trustees, yes.
Are you
Any
guys,
questions?
excuse me, did I say something?
Okay, I just have so presently, one of the board members is from Louisville, and the remainder one of the trustees are from Massena. But like said, I mean, just like the school board, it's open at large. One thing just to reiterate that Steve had said, the $607,429.80 will come off of our tax levy, which will be a decrease in town taxes at roughly 22.25%. Then, obviously, the school tax, or the library tax bill, would fill in that void, and it'd be probably a net savings of like 4.3% overall on your Massena town taxes. And yet, at the same time, gives the library the ability to operate and function in a capacity that they can move forward. So, the other question, I think I've asked this before, I believe you're still bound by the 2% tax cap as well, as the school district is in the town and village of Massena, and all villages and towns in New York State. So I believe that to be correct.
Yes, the library district would have its own tax cap, separate from the town or the school district or anything else. And starting in the second year, the tax cap would go into effect for the library district. Yes. go
What
ahead.
kind of feedback have you gotten from the other communities, including Norfolk? Norfolk already has a library.
Yes, a portion of the town of Norfolk, they're supporting the municipal library in Norfolk, and it's within the Massena Central School District. The purpose of creating a school district public library is because there's card holders and there's users of the Massena Library within this whole area. And we're trying to include these areas that have benefited from the library in Massena and have used the library, and we're hoping that it is more equitably sharing the burden of supporting the library, because the library does contribute to the communities and is a benefit to the communities within the whole school district area. And this is the best way that we have found to do that. Yes, the gentleman in the back.
I'm gonna try and keep this as short as possible.
Okay, thank you.
I think that your situation is a result of the town councils in the past not funding at an increasing rate. Your funding has been level, that's what you're complaining about. One thing that Sam brought up is there's a member from Louisville on the board. She does not represent the town of Louisville. She's just someone who lives in Louisville that serves on the board. This is clearly an attempt to shift the burden of the Massena library to outlying communities. I think there may be some constitutional issues involved with this, although by getting a new charter, that eliminates some of those issues. But the people outside the Massena, town of Massena, don't have a chance to decide whether they want to participate in this library, except for, oh yes, everybody will be able to vote. But I'm sure excited about somebody with a home like mine saving $250 in taxes this year in Massena. But I live in Louisville, so that's gonna cost me $200. The statistics that I received at the Louisville presentation that you had was that 7% of the card holders active card holders live in Louisville. You want us to pay 22% of the bill. I mean, I pay taxes here in Massena, I pay village taxes, I pay town taxes too, so I'm gonna save some money. But creating an entity that can tax the people, all right? We have the group, usually the board is self-interested, it's library, they're focused on that, unlike this town board who has a lot of things to focus on. You guys have your survival and prosperity. And then given the power to tax, and I know the people have a chance to vote on that, but that's an awesome power to give a group of citizens to tax. And if I don't pay my library tax, you can take my house. I have a
Let
problem.
me just stop you and address that one point, because there was quite a few points within your speech. Let me just address that one. There are about 8,000 or 9,000 parcels in the Massena Central School District. And to be able to say who's gonna lose their house, who's gonna be kicked out, that's impossible for anyone to predict, I believe. You raise constitutional issues. This is a mechanism that the New York State has provided for libraries, and it's a legal process. It's not something we've just created out of thin air. There's something like 165 school district public libraries in New York State. And the closest ones would be, within our library system anyway, are Potsdam, Oswego, and Fulton, and there's Malone. The library districts, yes, they have the power to tax, but you've given other governmental districts the power to tax too. You've given schools the power to tax, villages, counties, towns. If people, what we're asking for creating a school district public library is to see whether people feel that there's a benefit for having a library or not, and to see if this is the mechanism that they want to do to have it. This is the same process for raising funds, raising taxes to support an educational benefit for the community. For a library, the same as for the school. And there's no granting of some wild authority to tax people unduly or tax them right out of their house. It's all public, it's all subject to the voters, it's subject to their elected representatives, whether it's the school board of education or the library district board.
So, but
Well, and
what's
with that, I mean, that's, the taxation part is one part of this, but, I mean, this allows the people in the other community to have a say in how this library is run. I mean, you get to participate and decide what they're funding, what services they offer. I mean, we've done it since 1934, we think, and we've asked in the past for financial support from the different communities.
But why hasn't the town councils in the past funded this library to where you wouldn't be in this situation? And again, you have the mob, Massena, of 12,883 people, and then we in Louisville have 3,500. So, but we're all gonna get to vote, but the mob gets to vote whether they wanna save and apportion the cost to the adjacent communities. Well,
Let me just address a couple of those points before you get too many points on your list there.
I have a lot.
I can answer a lot. I could stay here all night too. That's
No,
okay.
oh, no.
As
We should
we're
put a
not trying
limit
to
on
say that the only cause of a funding problem is that the town council has underfunded the library. We know there are economic situation across Massena, across the whole North Country, and the town of Massena has other things that they need to fund also, same as the town of Louisville.
Well, we're not
Other towns.
underfunding. What we are doing is funding to what the town council believes the taxpayers of the town of Massena have paid for to get that service. This, like anything else, like the cultural center, our airport, our highways, it's up to us to determine what level of services the town of Massena should offer to its community. It helps with bringing businesses into town, tourists, to offer these different programs. But, we've done it since 1934. We're offering the opportunity to other communities to be able to participate and decide what we want to have at the library.
The Massena Town Council has to be fiscally responsible, same as the other towns in the area, other governments. There are other problems that the library is facing. There's
All right.
top costs go up.
You're
in addition.
asking for a 16% increase in your funding to start with on this new budget. You went from $607,000 from these guys to $695,000. That's about a 16% increase. Where,
There are expenses that do not show up in the town's allocation to the library. Things that the town has provided to the library in kind services, and things that the library will now have to support from their own tax base. There also, the thing to consider is that the library district is starting with nothing. There's no reserves, nothing to fall back on. There's no accounts with the town that's gonna support the library if there's an emergency in the building, some large repairs. So, the same as the school, we're independent. We'd have to cover all those expenses and costs ourselves. And that's where we need the funding to support things like that for the first year to see.
Charlie, one other thing, this year's budget, $30,000 from the fund balance was used. So that would make up part of their, budget for the year was $30,000.
I just hate taking money out of the savings account, because that
History
doesn't,
of the origin of the fund balance?
taking money out of the savings account is still, we're spending money, and we've all had trouble with our fund balances, to make the budget stick and stay below the cap, but sometimes the savings account runs out, like Joe said. Your savings account is running out, they don't have anything to fall back on. I'm concerned about creating another taxing agency or creating another tax up here. New York is number 2 next to New Jersey in local taxes. And I just think that I wish there was another way that we could think about funding that library without coming after people's taxes and taxing their homes. Why do I have to pay $200 to the library and you only pay $50 to the library? I'm just a man and you're just a man, but your house is $50,000 and mine is $200,000. Why is that my share? And that's the only way you guys know how to tax, is that based upon assessment.
Right.
Steve's aware of.
Yeah, I mean, what's your question there?
Well, but I'm just saying
You've
is
just gone on.
the thing is that we're taxing property.
Right, that's what we do.
And, well,
I mean, how,
but I don't want
what
these-
else do you want?
yeah, But I don't think another taxing agency, another.
Well, thank you for your comment.
Okay, good.
I'd like to get this wrapped up as soon as possible and also afford the opportunity for anybody to call or email either Joseph or Patty or me or the other 10 board members or Elaine. So if we can,
Mr. O'Shaughnessy,
yes, Mrs. Robinson.
yes.
Miss, sorry.
What happens if a person doesn't pay the library tax?
Same as anything else with the non-payment of taxes.
So it goes to Canton?
Yeah.
And this isn't an entirely new tax. It's the tax for the library is spread out among more people. So the burden on anybody is going to be less.
This comes
Can I
under
ask
the,
another?
this comes under the school system, so therefore do you vote as a taxpayer for the school district on whether to accept this or not?
Yes.
Just like we're
It's gonna
voting
be-
to move it, but do we also have to,
The school budget vote will be in May.
right,
The vote
it'll
for the
be on
library
that?
will be in June.
right, but it'll be on there whether you want to accept it or
It'll be
not?
on the bill. It'll show up on your school tax bill if it passes.
I'm asking, when you vote in May,
Yes.
is there a question?
No,
Do you wanna,
Not that.
No, it's in June.
only in June.
June.
The vote on the library
yeah,
is
but
in
the
June.
school district gotta pick this up. I mean,
They will.
No.
They collect it, they collect the tax in
They
the
just collect
fall.
the tax. They
Town of
don't,
Massena collects the
They're the
taxes.
collection agency, they
That's all
don't do
they
anything else, they collect the money and hand it over to the library.
that's what they do. That's all they are, collection.
Alrighty.
I'm sure the-
Town of Massena collects all the school taxes for Massena, Louisville, Norfolk, and Brazier. The town of Massena will collect all the taxes for the library district as well. And that costs Louisville residents $0 to get their taxes collected.
Just not, my
Hence-
guess would be that the resolution will read just like any other resolution. Just like when we vote on the school budget. We authorize the school board to raise X number of dollars to fund the school district or to buy a school bus. The figure's always in the resolution and people bother to read it. And then I assume they'll do the same thing with this. Authorize the establishment of a school library, $683,750, and you'll vote yes or no. If we approve it, then we'll be taxed on our school bill for that. And then the following year, I would assume you'd have to stand at 2%. If we vote it down, they don't get the 2% increase. They're on austerity, just like any other school system, but if we don't approve the school budget year to year, what happens? The school board goes on austerity. If we don't approve the library every year, they go on austerity. They use the same amount of money they used the year before.
If a budget in a later year is not approved by the voters, the funding level remains the same as the previous year.
Yeah.
And I just want to repeat that because that's right. For the first vote this year, the proposition will be to create the school district public library and to fund it at a certain level, as given here. And then the later years will just be for a funding level, if and when that comes to be.
I just had a real quick question. Is this a unique situation when you consider other areas that have taken, a school, school-generated library system, where it's like in Potsdam, for instance, do they tax people that live outside the town of Potsdam, or you know what I'm saying? Or is this the first time it's gone past town borders?
Well,
162 times.
if it's a school district public library, the borders are set by whatever the school district boundaries are for that
Right.
library. There is another type of library, it's called a special legislative district library, and that, the borders can be drawn, and if it's, that type of library has to be approved by the legislature in Albany, and for that, the borders could be drawn however they like. It could be going in and out of however many different towns or school districts, but we're focusing here on a school district public library that seems to be what works best, because it shows the educational component of the library, and also that the governor hasn't been approving special legislative district libraries recently, so that's not really an option right now to use.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.